So welcome. Welcome to everyone who has joined us before. Welcome back to everyone who is new to DenverScript or hasn't been here in a good long while. Glad you could join us. We're happy to meet you. We're going to talk real quick about our code of conduct. So DenverScript is dedicated to providing a harassment-free community for everyone. Participants violating these rules may be sanctioned or expelled from the community at the discretion of the DenverScript organizers. If you're being harassed, notice that someone else is being harassed, or have any other concerns, please contact a DenverScript organizer immediately. That includes me, CJ, and Cass for tonight. And also Chad. My bad. Chad. Oh, I'm sorry, Cheddar. And if you don't feel comfortable coming up and talking to us in the here and now, you can always reach out to us through Meetup or our email. But the basic ground rules are: be kind. Do not talk over the organizers or speakers. And during Q&A, ask constructive questions. And don't try to prove a point or gotcha the speaker. We're here to learn and to have fun, not get on each other's nerves. Also, we are live, correct? Correct. At DenverScript Meetup on YouTube. So when asking for questions, make sure that you have the microphone. I'll probably be running it around, or Cass. You need to have one of these so that everyone who is watching the live stream, or you watching the VOD later, can hear the questions. And I would like to thank our sponsors. Code Talent is sponsoring this lovely space that we're using here, as well as the beverages in the fridge back there. We really appreciate it. Oh, time to stretch. I'm not doing 10 minutes, no. And then we'd like to thank Sentry, Sentry.io, for sponsoring our food tonight. They're an app monitoring, error reporting platform. He totally gave me this information and my brain just went, woo! All right, so thank you to our sponsors. And we're always looking for sponsors. Sentry is not a long-term sponsor for us. So if you love DenverScript and think that your company would love to get their name in front of this great group of people, you can message us at denverscript@gmail.com. We're also looking for speakers, always and forever. DenverScript.com, there's a form you can submit to register your interest to speak at the meetup, and we encourage everyone to do so. It's a great way to get your face in front of a crowd, to get your name in front of the community, and to show off, because I know you all can show off. And with that, it's time for JavaScript News with Cass.
Hello, this is really weird because this is normally a spatula. So for those of you who have been here, okay, it's here still. Awesome, y'all. Thank you. All right. So if you're new to DenverScript, or if you haven't been here for a while, I was also thinking, did we even do news last month? We didn't. But we like to just kind of highlight some JavaScript-related items. Releases, maybe some articles, maybe some new resources that we think you might be interested in. And I like to really harp on the conferences, so I'm going to save that for last because that's where I'm going to spend most of my time. But in the news, you probably saw that the Department of Justice opened an antitrust lawsuit against Apple. One of the pieces in there was about, app creation, app distribution, and also the use of WebKit. So I feel free to go read that, check it out, kind of see like what, yeah, I see some claps. Yeah, pretty interesting. We'll see where it goes. If you are a Remix user, you might be excited because Vite is now default for Remix. Feel free to check out more about that. I'm not a Remix person, so I didn't want to write, I see more claps, thanks Chet. I didn't want to write too much about that because I actually don't know much about Remix. One other cool thing that I saw was that JSR, the JavaScript registry, is now in public beta. So you can get your ES modules or whatnot to work with apps like built with Dino or built with other NPM-based projects. It's open source, it's free, could be cool to see where that goes. All right. For releases, a couple of interesting ones. I wrote in TypeChat, it's a very early release, but if you like to work with LLMs and maybe you want to like make the experience a little bit richer, maybe have a little bit more fun with it, this could be the tool for you. Storybook got a new release. I was really hoping Kyle Koberly was here to tell us all about it. He's not, so I'll just give my little spiel, which is we've got support for React Server components, so if you're a Next person, you're probably thinking that's pretty great. Vite and Vite test support. What? People are excited, I guess. I think that's pretty cool. And then refresh the UI. I think some more visuals, things that are gonna make your life easier, because Storybook was already pretty cool to begin with. Let's see. AI SDK, again, making your LLMs a little bit more fun to use, I guess, or maybe you're using that to make it fun for someone else to use, but check that out if you're like wanting to level up your like interfacing game with LLMs. Angular, React Query, Nuxt, Node, and TypeScript. I won't go into details. A lot of it was just like small stuff I'm not sure anybody really cares about, but check it out if you're interested. And then let's see, on resources. There's this cool runtime compatibility chart. I'll actually open it. If you really want to see like specifically one particular functionality that you want to use in a particular runtime, you can check out here and see who can support it so that you can make the best educated decision on which runtime to use. Nicely done. I think it's interesting, especially with all of our options nowadays. Honeypot released the Node documentary. I have not watched it myself, but if you're a YouTube person, you've probably seen it already. Anybody watch it and want to give a quick 2-sentence review? Yes, I knew it would be you.
I'm only halfway in, but it's super cool because it's like origins of Node, and so they interview Ryan Dahl, the creator. They interview other people whose names I forgot, but like people that, like the dude that created NPM. It's super cool to learn like the history of all the stuff that we use, so yeah.
Cool. And then for those of you who grew up, quote unquote, reading Eloquent JavaScript, it is now in its 4th edition. So they said that it has been touched up for the realities of 2024. I'm not sure what that means in this context. I'm assuming modern JavaScript, but who knows? So if you read it, tell me how it is. I want to know what's different. I want to know what's new, because I am not going to read that whole thing again, probably ever. Cool. Let's go to the conferences. This is the spot I really want to spend time on. This first item I think is the most important. React Advanced has opened their proposals. So if you are thinking, wow, I have this really cool talk that I'd like to give, and nobody around me knows what I'm talking about, React Advanced is the place. The idea for this conference is they want it to be more than just, how do I do this basic thing in React? They want to like dig in and kind of let people who are experienced with React walk away with something new. That does not mean that they don't have any beginner stuff or any even newer like things for like even mid devs. They do. Please submit, just submit. There are a couple of other call for proposals that are open, such as Denver Dev Day. This is not a particularly like strong web conference, but they have developers from kind of all nooks and crannies of the developer universe, and they do have some web stuff, so check it out. Submit a proposal. That one's great because you just have to drive down to DTC. You don't have to go anywhere for it. Call for proposals has already passed for the following conferences, but they are coming up, so I want to get them on your radar. Front-end Design and Dev is in April. ViewConf is coming up. I don't know where that is, probably New Orleans.
Reminds me.
Yes.
Yes. We have a discount code for ViewConf. If you, I'll get it on the screen. And we have a ticket to give away. We're going to do it at the end of the meetup, so stick around. you will, yeah, well, a ticket to give away. You would still have to cover like airfare and flight and everything, but you'd get a ticket. So yeah, we're giving that away.
That's the best news. So we probably should have led with that. Cool. Stick around for that, y'all. And then React Conf is coming up in May. I also think, what's the React conference coming up in April? React Miami is also coming up. So if you are really itching to get out there, do some serious networking, watch some talks, learn some new things, make some new friends, go to one of those conferences and then tell me how it is. Cool. Any other announcements, news items that anyone wants to bring up? All right. I will hand it back over to Marlena.
Thank you very much. And with that, it is time to welcome our first speaker. So today we're going to have 2 talks, and our first one is what questions do you have? How to interview your interviewer with Leta.
This is very exciting. I feel like I'm a newscaster. I normally walk around a lot, but I'm guessing our little camera, hi YouTube, is set up, so I will be relatively still, but I can't promise I won't swivel a lot. So hello, I'm Leta. My pronouns are they, them, and she, her. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about one aspect of interviewing, which doesn't often occur to us to think about until it happens, and then you get a flop sweat, and it just ends the interview on a really bad note, so we're gonna avoid that. Okay, so, hello. I am a front-end engineer at NREL, and before that, I taught at a coding boot camp for 6 years. So I've seen hundreds of students get their first interview. I've coached people through how to interview, how to gracefully exit a question you don't know the answer to, but still show that you've got the skills that you need. And also coached a lot of people on asking good questions during their interview. So that's the general, like, why you should listen to me. But also, you know, whatever, don't listen to me. I don't know everything. Okay, so it's the moment. You've survived your interview. Maybe you blacked out and don't remember it, but you're still sitting there and nobody has left the room screaming, so it probably went okay. And then they're like, do you have any questions for me? And you're like, what is a question? I don't know anything. Who are you? Maybe you're like, you know what, I prepared. I listened to what everyone says and I researched the company and I'm gonna ask a question that shows off all the research I've done. But then you don't actually learn anything new and it's not a useful question and it's not really memorable to the interviewer either. Or maybe you just ask something pointless to pass the time because you feel really awkward and then it doesn't help and you just feel even more awkward. That's okay. This is because coming up with meaningful, useful questions is really hard to do. So what we're gonna do in this talk is learn how to do that. Oh no, same thing. Okay, here we go. What I mean by this is not get really selfish. You're the only thing that matters in the universe. No, what I mean is that when you're trying to think of what questions to ask during an interview, you gotta first take time to reflect, to go inward and to think about, you know, what works for me. So let's really dive into that. The main question to start with is, what do you care about? I like to think of it in a few different buckets. Firstly, learning and work style. You've all spent a lot of time learning to be developers, learning how teams work, learning how to collaborate, learning how to pick up new tech. So as you've done that, what has worked? What has not worked for you? Do you really like having a lot of downtime to yourself to explore, read documentation, try things out? Or do you really like to have a buddy to bounce ideas off of, to challenge you, to ask new questions? You know how you work better than anybody else. You know what works for you. You know what kind of environment helps you learn. You know what kind of environment stifles your creativity. Consider that. Do you like a fast-paced environment? Do you like a collaborative environment? Do you prefer work-life balance? Just get into it. Really take some time to reflect and think about what have your experiences been, what's been great, what's been less great. Really just take some time to think about that. Consider culture fit. Where are you the most comfortable? Like, do you like teams that get to know each other and get together outside of work, or do you prefer teams that kind of keep it work focused and you're like, my real life doesn't happen from 9 to 5? Like, I think something that for me really falls under culture fit is, could you be happy in a team that doesn't use GIFs in their messages? Like, that's a thing. Some teams don't, and that's bananas to me. Like, most of my communication is emojis and GIFs, and I don't know what I would do if I couldn't have access to those. So how does the culture of the team matter? Like, where do you feel like you can be yourself? The company and the team values. What is the product that you're building and how is it used? What does the company stand for? Does the conduct of the team match what they say about themselves on their website, on their hiring page? Do you feel safe on the team? What teams have you thrived under? What made it easy to thrive? What teams have you kind of suffered under, and what made it miserable? Really think about your experiences. The last thing I like to think about is your career trajectory. Okay, this one is weird because a lot of us are like, just give me a job. I'll take anything, I don't even care. But it's still important. Something to ask yourself is, where am I going? And how can this role be a stepping stone to get me there? Even if right now that stepping stone is just a place to pause and breathe and get your head above water so you can plan your next step. That's okay. Sometimes some jobs are like that. But really consider, like, will this position challenge me in a meaningful way, or will it just challenge me and burn me out? Okay. I hope that, like, as I've been yammering at you, you've been doing some thinking, like thinking back to your experiences and answering those questions. But right now, we're gonna zoom out a little bit. So rather than thinking about, like, what questions am I gonna ask, we're gonna zoom out and just talk about it. So this is where my teacher background is coming, because I'm gonna make you participate. Why do you think we do interviews? Interviewers have access to your GitHub, your resume, your portfolio. They can look at who you've worked with on LinkedIn. There's all these pieces of data that are available. So why? Why do we have, like, face-to-face or video call interviews? Like, I want to hear from you. You get the spatula.
And then when it's done, press that.
I'm excited to use the spatula. Oh, wow. I would say soft skills, just determining soft skills and things you can't really glean from a profile online.
Yeah. Wanting to figure out your soft skills, things that they might not be able to see just from looking at your code. What else?
Maybe something around the culture fit as well, just to make sure your attitude and kind of your behavior will fit in with the vibe of the team, potentially.
Yeah, definitely. Who are you as a person? And really, oh yeah, go for it.
That your skills match what they're asking for.
Yeah, that you aren't some imposter from off the street who's just like, I stole this resume, I fabricated everything, but you're gonna hire me. Yeah, absolutely. To kind of get to know who you are, get to know who are you off the paper. Like, you're more than just what you wrote down on your personal website or on LinkedIn. So who are you? Okay, you deserve that too. You deserve to get to know the team, the actual team that you might be joining. Because an interview is all about, they want to know, are you the right fit for our team? But you want to know, are you the right fit for me? Like, you get to feel that way no matter how desperate you are for work. Okay, so let's get back into making a question. An example from my reflections, when I think about my learning style, I really learn best when I'm with a bunch of other people who really love asking questions and answering questions. And they're just like really enthusiastic about it. No one just depends on the wisdom dispensed from a couple of experts, like everybody's in it, everybody's a rookie. So if that's what I know about myself, how can I ask that? How can I ask an interviewer to get a sense of, is this how your team operates? I could just say, does your team have a culture of enthusiastic question asking and answering? That's totally okay, that's super valid. There's no one right way to ask a question. I think when you start with reflecting, it helps you know, what do I care about? What's most important for me to find out? I'm gonna show you a couple of ways that you could ask something to get a sense of this from a team. So, I could ask, when people have questions, where do they go for answers? Cool, it's a little open-ended. Maybe I'll find out there's a Slack channel, and then you can follow up to be like, do anyone use it? Does anyone use it? Yes, no? I could also be a little bit sneaky here, and I could ask something a little more pointed to be like, how have you seen members of the team advocating for their own learning and for somebody else's? I don't know, to me this tells me I could find out that everyone advocates for their learning a lot because maybe no one's supporting their learning, or maybe it's a team where everyone's really excited to be like, oh, so-and-so is asking me this question and this is what we did to find out and we're gonna share it for everybody. I could also ask what supports are in place for the new developers on your team. Cool. Lots of different ways to ask it. And you don't have to be sneaky, you don't have to be smart, you can just be super straightforward. What really matters is that you're finding out what's most important to you. Okay, I'm sorry, but this is true. It's kind of horrifying. But the good news is, interviewing, like dating, rejection happens. It can feel like it's your fault, that you are a terrible person, that no one will ever love you. get a job, give you a job, but that's okay. It turns out that oftentimes it's really not that there's anything wrong with you or that you're deficient in any way. It's just that it's not the right person. It's not the right team. It's not the right fit. It's not the right time. What I want you to think about in terms of how interviewing can be like dating is that you get the opportunity to really think about what is going to be the best for you. So think about, what are your red flags? These are kind of satisfying and fun to think about because we all love complaining about things, but consider it from your past. What are things that you're like, I'm never working for a team like this ever again? Think about that. Figure out what is the deal breaker. But also think about your green flags. What's your dream job? Or dream company or team? How do you know it's going to be a good fit for you? What makes you excited when you think about where you could be working? A note I want to add is that you can't be universally liked. This is really hard for me as a high anxiety people pleaser, but thinking about this, you don't have to give perfect answers. You don't have to ask perfect questions. Nobody wants to bring a dictionary onto their team or an encyclopedia yet. I guess AI is coming for us at that point, but not right now. Everyone's hiring people. So be yourself, be a person. With this, what I mean by this is it is okay to have opinions. It's okay to have specifics of what you're looking for from a team. I know that it can feel like having it, coming in with opinions, coming in with an idea of what you want from a team can feel like I'm limiting my options. Jobs are so scarce. Layoffs are rampant. Why would I ever do this? Why would I narrow the group of companies that I'm looking for? Okay, think about you're trying to figure out what to have for dinner. And the person you're planning with is just whatever you want. I'm easy. I don't have any opinions, but you're like, I know you do though, but I know you do. And that's so much harder to work with, and it's so much harder to understand what is it going to be like having dinner with this person than it would be if you're like, what do you want to have for dinner? And the other person was like, you know, I had pizza the other day, so I'm not really feeling that, but I am kind of in the mood for either curry or pho. That's so much easier to work with. That's so much easier for you to understand. Here's what our immediate future is going to look like. Here's how I can actually like interact with that and interact with you. Similarly, your job when you're interviewing and when you're asking questions of the interviewer is not to just be a perfect, palatable nothing. Like, I want you to be something. I want you to be you. So you don't have to be rigid. You don't have to be like, this is my huge list of everything a team has to have. But it's good to know yourself and to know what's going to work, what isn't. The good news, this might seem like a lot of work, but you only have to come up with these questions once during your job hunt. The best way to do this, prioritize what's most important to you in a team, the things that you need most from a role. Come up with questions that help you suss out where a team lands in those areas and ask them at every interview you do. Take notes. That way, when you get multiple job offers, because I see that happening for all of you, you'll be able to compare them. You'll be able to see, like, okay, this team's offering a little bit more money, but they didn't quite line up with the way that I like to learn. This other team lines up more. Maybe I can leverage and negotiate. The great thing is that this will help you compare teams. It will help you keep your interviews straight in your own head so you can kind of keep track of what's going on. Okay. Story time. I landed my most recent job after being laid off and being in the job hunt for, let's see, it was late October, which, rude. That's like my high holy like holiday season is spooky season. Laid off in the middle of it. Let's see, October, and I didn't start at my new role until February. So it was a while, not the longest, it could have been worse. But I know that one of the reasons that I was able to put together opportunity networking was with asking good questions. I was able to meet up with future team members, with the hiring manager, with the team lead, and the questions I was able to ask both before and after, like during the end of my interview, it helped the team understand what is most important to me. Because I'd already done that reflecting. I was gonna ask about things that mattered to me, that let them know, like, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. So my questions showed not just an interest in the team and the work and the job, but exposed the things that I value and like backed up, verified, validated the things that I said of myself during the interview. More than that, though, I think that having good conversations during the interview, but also following up, gave me a great way to help the team get a sense of who I am, what it's like to work with me. And really, that's what an interview is. There's just people trying to figure out, hey, what would it be like if we brought you onto our team? Okay, I've been talking a lot. What questions do you have? Yay. But also, what questions do you have?
The spatula awaits.
So I think that's all great, and I would also like to add to that when you go into interviews, do think about it and do please be yourself, because you don't know like what a hiring manager is looking for in somebody, and often it's like they have somebody who's like, you know, moving super fast and like breaking things as they go, but to balance that out, they need somebody who's going to, you know, kind of hold them back and like ask questions in their pull requests and like slow things down. So it's really important to be yourself and to present yourself as you actually are when you're in the interview, because like that's what they're hiring for. And if you put up a front, or like you think like they want to hire this type of person, and then that's what you present, often that's going to end up being a problem later on, because they're going to be like, oh, well, I already have that person on the team. Like, what I really need is this. So, I agree with everything you said, and I think that that's very important.
8 bazillion%. My role, I went in super insecure about my hard technical skills because I've been teaching for 6 years. I've been teaching junior developers. I have like really great deep knowledge of JavaScript for a junior, like to a junior level. And so I went in, was really open and honest about that, talked about the other skill sets that I bring, and it turns out there are plenty of really great developers at NREL, no surprise. It's a wonderful field of amazing, wonderful nerds who really like the planet. I love it. And I'm out here and I'm very loud and confident. And my manager was like, you're interested in developer advocacy. You're interested in getting people to go do conference talks. Like, I want that. And so exactly to your point, you never know what a team is looking for. And so being yourself is just the best way to be the perfect fit for a team.
Is there a graceful way to bring up things like time off and amount of hours worked? Like for me personally, I prefer to work by myself in a closet. Everybody leave me alone. I'll come out when I'm finished. But you know, it's not necessarily a deal breaker, so I wouldn't want to bring it up and then have that be held against me.
Yeah, definitely. Great question. There's always graceful ways to ask it. I also, something to keep in mind, one of the benefits of networking and like being like, you work at this company, I've just put in an application, want to talk to me? Is that you get to talk to them in a less formal environment. So you can be like, but how much PTO do you really take? Without saying that to the person who's in charge of hiring you. The way to, like in your case, being like, I really just want to put my head down and work, and then I'll come out and then talk to everybody. I think one of the great things is to say like, hey, you do your best work when you're not distracted, when you're able to focus fully. I think that's a strength. I think that's really wonderful. So instead of viewing the way that you prefer to work and the way that you best learn as a potential like deal breaker for somebody else, just be like, no, this is how I work. It's going to work great for somebody else. And when you're asking your questions, be like, hey, I do really great work when I have undivided time to focus on the work that I'm currently doing. So how often are meetings scheduled? You know, maybe that's something that you're concerned about. Like in the past, you had a job with a bunch of meetings so you could never focus and get into that flow state. Really identify not your strengths or particularities as potential deal breakers for someone else, but figure out, how do you know that's how you work best? Were you maybe not in that environment before? Ask about it. Be like, hey, this kind of work hasn't worked for me. Like, how do y'all roll? And give them that space to let you know.
All right, unfortunately, that's all the time for questions we have. Thank you so much. Thank you. Great talk and great questions. Love the discussion, always. And now we have new to view 3, defineModel, AKA, wait, we can mutate props now? With Chris.
Yes, we can.
I'll show you a green card at the halfway and yellow at 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Hello? All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris. And just to echo what CJ said when I was setting up, wait, React? I thought this was a Vue talk. Yeah, okay. Just some level setting here before the joking title I made up, like hopefully somewhat funny nerd joke, but with a really long build up to it. So just wanted to do some level setting. Like how many folks here know React? All right, how many know Vue? Yeah, okay, that's better than I thought. I just wanted to start off level setting in React with, we've all seen probably little apps like this, just doing counter, just to set the stage for this new thing in Vue that I just thought was pretty cool. Because you can see, because one of the just perennial challenges with like front-end design is managing state, right? And like everyone knows, right? You never mutate props directly, right? But we've all been there, right? We've all inadvertently done it because, invariably you could be working on something complex and, it tends to happen sometimes, or you run across it, if you're reviewing someone else's code or you're working on something that just is really a long in the tooth application. So like this one here, this is simple enough, but let me just switch over. So like this is my React code here, this is my parent component, where it gets, one of the ways it starts getting complicated is, well, okay, what if I don't have the button within the same component? What if the element that's actually updating things, is in the child, like this here? So, like in React, there's a little bit of boilerplate you got to do. I've got to create a handler function, at the parent level that's in scope of the parent, so that it can mutate the state rather than mutate it at the prop level as it gets passed down, and et cetera, because down in the child component here, I have to make sure, I put in event handling and that I take in that function. And this is, pretty elementary example of how you solve this problem in React. Then I've got the same app over here in Vue. If I can just switch my code, you can see, yeah. Like the way I say it is when I look at React code, I'm like, okay, who put HTML in my JavaScript? With Vue, if you're unfamiliar with it, it's a lot more like, okay, let's make everything look like an HTML file, sort of, where you can just, at the component level, have separation of concerns for, here's my HTML, I've got a script for whatever JavaScript I need, and then here's my CSS. And I, like probably most of you, I started off with React, really liked it, got hired onto a role with a team that uses Vue, and then this was one of the first things where I was just like, oh, wow, I love this. And if you've played around with Svelte, it's pretty similar to this as well. And because one of the ways it's architected differently comes into play in this kind of situation here, because instead of, like you'll notice here, like it's probably self-evident, but like I've got a child component here, the parent is rendering count, and it's passing that as a prop to the child. Well, I don't have to pass a helper function, a handler function, to the child, because instead of the parent having to come up with this function and give it to the child that can then be invoked, the child just needs to create a custom event to tell the parent, hey, somebody clicked something, update your stuff. And I just, that was a little mind-blowing for me, like when I was just a lot newer to this framework, but immediately I was like, oh, I just like that, at least just personally. And, it could just be personal preference thing, but, and you can see like here, just to walk you through the child, I'm handling a click here, and then I've got to, within my JavaScript, I have to create, this syntax here for, I'm bringing in the props, I'm creating a custom event that I emit or send up to the parent, just telling them, hey, update your count with this value. Pretty straightforward, right? Everyone following okay, I trust? Okay. But one thing they did in Vue a long time ago that really sets the stage for this defineModel thing that I promise I will eventually get to is a long time ago, React clearly Vue team got pretty smart, and there's like, this is nice, but this still creates boilerplate. So they came up with this syntax of vModel, which does the same thing as what you see here. It just provides simpler syntactic sugar so that you can just do that, and you see how already my IDE noticed you're not using this anymore. Yeah, you don't even need to create the handler function anymore, because once you use this vModel syntax in the parent, and see, let me refresh, it just works. And that's because via syntactic sugar, it recreates the first structure that you saw that was not commented out. Well, just recently, more or less, the Vue team probably was inspired by this. I don't know for a fact, but it seemed just pretty obvious that they said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we did something like that on the other side of this relationship? Because you can see I'm still having to use this, and from someone that works in Vue in a pretty complicated application, you end up writing this a lot sometimes, just because you have complicated components and you have to send stuff down to the child, and then you have a lot of click handling you do there. Well, that's where this new defineModel syntax comes into play, because now, and I guess just first, before I show you that, of course, because if I just tried to do this here, if I just try to do something like this, this is not going to work. If I had my console open, you'd see it lighting up like a Christmas tree. Like, what are you doing? No, wrong, 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 because I'm trying to mutate the prop directly. But this in Vue, they have what they call a macro, which just means you don't have to explicitly import it. It's just globally available. Define props for a long time now as a way of declaring your props. So building on that, and with this kind of a architecture in mind, they created this new thing in version, I think it came out, it's been in 3.4, it finally became no longer, what's the right word, like beta or whatnot. It was something, it's been out for at least 6 months in like a testing phase, but in 3.4, they finally solidified it. It's like, nope, this is good to go. You don't have to add something to your config for it to be there. Don't worry, we promise we won't mess with it too much, but it's a framework. Of course, they're gonna change things eventually. But now you can just do this, where locally here, I can declare my own function and I can have the look and feel of mutating a prop directly. I mean, an uber nerd moment for me. As soon as I saw this, I went running to my manager. I'm like, this is so cool, because we're still really, a lot of us are still like in discovery mode with Vue 3, because, we've just recently switched over to it. And it was one of the things that just got me all excited, where I was like, this is awesome. This will make my life so much easier. But if you go read the documentation, this works because it's syntactic sugar. You're not technically mutating the prop directly. Vue just knows under the hood that when you use this syntax, oh, okay, I'm going to, do for you all of this work here of, writing out all of this extra boilerplate to emit the event up to the parent and change it there. It just does all that for you, very simply. And I just thought that was really cool. And I think it's one of the reasons that if you haven't used this framework, I really would encourage you. I'm biased, I work in it every day, but I like it. And I think the switch to Vue 3 has definitely been a switch for the better, because they're, just continue to put out stuff like this, which just seems like it's well thought out. And also, Evan Yu, the creator of Vue, also created Vite, so it works pretty well with that, because I see stuff all the time about, oh, if you're using Create React app, like, stop, just go over to Vite. So that's another good point of using Vue as well, because Vite works with Vue, and it, like anything else, like if you can trust the guy that came up with both of them that they're going to work together, I don't know what to tell you in terms of like future proofing for something like that. Because actually we just switched over to using vtest, because I was looking into that and going, hey, we should really use this as our testing framework and whatnot, or as our test runner. And that's really all I had. Anyone got any questions, comments?
I was kind of sad that there was a regular mic up there instead of a spatula. So the teacher in me immediately looks at this and says, like, this is great for people who understand that mutating state directly is a no bueno. But it's interesting thinking about how a new dev, new to frameworks, new to managing data models, could maybe get this, like, look at this syntax, which is great for people who understand about not mutating props directly, and might get the wrong idea. And I'm curious, in your experience, as you were looking up defineModel, like, in your opinion, how good are the docs at explaining that, hey, this looks like an anti-pattern, but actually this is what's going on?
Yeah, I think they're pretty good, and that's, and because I definitely had the concern about that, because I actually gave a talk at Snowfrock Conference last month, which is OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Projects, like, local annual conference, and it was all about how, like, you hear talk all the time about embedding security into software, and I was just explaining that, well, yeah, that's a good point, but I think what doesn't get emphasized enough is that if you just write good code, if you follow things like solid or MVC, the sorts of principles that any, pretty seasoned, robust developer, software engineer would say are good rules of thumb or whatnot, that you're gonna tend to write code that's secure a lot of the time, and there's a lot of overlap there. Because I think this gets to a good point where if you don't know what it's doing under the hood, it's easy to just start banging out an application without even understanding really what you're doing, and it just works. But that can like set yourself up for failure a little bit, because and I definitely look back, at myself. I was at that point when I was, first learning React and whatnot, and if stuff just worked, but. Because one thing that I do a lot, that I try to make a habit is anytime I get something working, I go, okay, I step back and go, how can I make this better? Is there anything where I'm doing maybe O of n complexity or O of n squared where I can make it more efficient? Is it worth making that improvement through the refactoring time? And also, like, okay, even though I try to, like, have a good design up front, I look and I go, okay, do I have good separation of concerns just from an MVC perspective? And that also gets to the criticality of, like, why you don't mutate props directly. It's just not, in the abstract, it's like, well, that's not a good design pattern. You should have, like, like, this component is just ideally doing one thing, like controlling the data flow. This one is managing the model of your data, and just as a simple way, just having, like, a stateless component that handles the view logic that you can use again and again and again. That's just a smarter, not harder way of working, but it's better. You have better design consistency by doing that. Sorry, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but yeah, that question definitely got my wheels spinning a little bit. Because that was one thing I thought about, that, yeah, you could just show this to someone that's brand new and they not really understand what they're doing. So, yeah, I did think the docs were pretty good about laying out what's actually going on there.
Other questions?
This is only kind of tangentially related, but have you or your team ever run into issues with performance when you have an object prop and when you emit that up? Because we have on our project had issues with that, and this is kind of heretical, but our solution was to mutate props, and we've got it kind of isolated, but I was just wondering if you had run into that.
No, I've run into, I guess, somewhat similar problems, because, like, actually making sure that, like having to make sure you really had stateless components at the child level, because we had, like, one use case where we were already exploring implementing more, like, virtual scrolling, just because we had some really, really, really long lists that we were trying to just optimize. And I was messing around with that and actually broke the browser a couple times just because I didn't have it as efficient as it needed to be. And it really hit home, like, this is why, like stateless components are a good thing, and that they're not just reusable, but you're more efficiently using resources, because eventually you probably will get something thrown at you that, hey, we could have like, you know, like a million billion, you know, or like, you know, thousands of things returned, and we need to make sure we're handling those efficiently. So, yeah, I haven't really, I mean, I have seen a lot of weird problems with objects though, like stuff, because in Vue 2 there was a known problem of updating objects where you had to do it in a certain way, or the page just wouldn't react to it. And that's one thing that I know the Vue team largely fixed with Vue 3. Because that was actually something I was showing my boss the other week, where it's like, hey, I updated this object in a way that wouldn't have worked in the past, and it just works. What a concept.
Yeah, sure. I'll ask it. I'm a pretty new developer, and I know you said with Vue 3, you're kind of in the discovery phase. For me, everything's in the discovery phase, right?
Yeah.
So at what point do you know you're kind of out of that phase and you're a little more comfortable with the language or framework that you're learning?
Well, I don't know you ever get out of it. It's probably just a thing where you get more comfortable that you're always going to have some sense of imposter syndrome, because there's always new things coming out and you always have to learn just to keep afloat. And at least what works for me is when I just when I compare myself with where I was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, is just how much, I guess, more naturally and instinctively I'll fall back on, not necessarily my deep knowledge of, say, like the new framework or the new version of it, but just, okay, how does this relate to solid design principles? How does this relate to MVC? How are we like thinking about architecting the app or the feature or whatnot, and how is this going to be maintainable? How am I separating concerns? Is thinking more, I guess, abstractly in that sense is really what I look to, as signs of growth and maturity, and just feeling, I don't know, beating myself up less about, man, I should know more than that, because you're always going to have a degree of that. And also just understanding that, well, you often need to slow things down, and that's not a bad thing, because if you're more deliberate about how you're planning things out and you think through things, you know, like anyone that's taught at a boot camp, you know, is like gone on and on often about, hey, don't just start writing code, you know, plan stuff out, think about what you're doing architecturally, think about your component design a little bit at least. And just the more experience you get at that, it just, at least for me, has helped me just be more confident that, okay, this is a new thing, it's a lot to take in, but I can figure this out.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I really haven't touched Vue in quite a while. Version 2 would have been the last time. The obvious change there was that you're not emitting an event. Is there an event being emitted under the hood?
Yeah, that's.
So you could
still. Yeah, that's one of the things it does via syntactic sugar, and and it was funny because I showed that to my boss before I'd even like thoroughly looked at the documentation, and I told him, oh yeah, I'm positive they're just doing this for you via syntactic sugar, and then like. Pretty shortly after that, I went and double-checked the documentation, and I went, yep. And I told him the next day, yep, it's doing exactly what I expected it was doing. That, yeah, even though you're not writing out the event, it's still going on under the hood.
So you can still catch it higher up?
Well, you don't need to.
Well, it's bound by the model, but there's something else going on that's listening for that event.
Well, I mean, you have to use like the V model at the parent that allows the parent to just catch it, so then you don't have to like explicitly write it in the parent. Which is probably why they called it that, because you can't just use defineModel on its own. I guess one thing, I probably should have explained that better. You have to use that V model syntax at the parent level to pass the prop, because if you don't, it's just gonna break.
Okay, so I'm also just exploring view 3. It's very exciting. So defineModel doesn't fully replace, defineModel doesn't fully replace define props. You'd still use define props if
Yes.
the child does not need to emit anything up to the parent, right?
Well, no, you still use, you would use defined props, the vast majority of the time, and you would use it, if you did need to just explicitly emit the event up to the parent.
Cool. Awesome, thanks.
All right, thank you so much, Chris. Yeah.
Hey everyone. Are you ready to win a conference ticket? What's up?
Huh?
What?
Which mic do you want to use?
Oh, both.
Cool.
We've got extra time, so I'm gonna write some code, and we'll have some fun doing it to give away the ticket.
If you want to get a slice of pizza.
Yeah, feel free to grab a slice, grab a drink, and we'll get into it. No, it's all good. We got time, and we got plenty of pizza. So let me get set up. Are we ready? Yes. Cool. So this is ViewConf. It's happening May 15th through the 17th in New Orleans. I forget, was it like 2018 I went? And it's awesome because New Orleans is a really fun city. And I don't know if they do it every year, but in New Orleans you can actually have your own parade. And they had a parade, and you got to walk around through like Bourbon Street and stuff, which was super cool. And the tickets are like $900, and we're about to give one away. So who's interested in potentially getting this ticket? Several? Nice, nice. And to give it away, we're going to write a Vue app to do it. So Chris talked about Vite. So Vite is a nice little way to generate a Vue app. So let's do it. Who here has used Vite? Nice, nice. We can see that there's this little command we can run, and it will generate a Vite app. Cool. We're going to call this ViewConf giveaway. And you can use a lot of different stuff with Vite, but we're going to use Vue, and we'll choose TypeScript. We might not actually write any TypeScript, though. And then we'll install some dependencies. Cool, and we'll start it up. So we have ourselves a little Vue app, and by default we get a nice little counter, which is fun. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a component that has a list of names, and we're going to click a button to randomly remove a name. And we're going to keep removing until there's only one name left, and that will be the winner, yeah. That's the plan. So let's wipe out this component. We're going to start from scratch. We'll have nothing here, and also pull out all of the styles. So super basic. Just throw a little header, and let me make sure there's no other styles too. Let's get rid of that. And cool, we're got a basic app here. I'm going to use Pico CSS. This is like Bootstrap, but you don't have to specify any classes. So you just add it to your app and you instantly get some styles. So we're going to go from this to, we're going to grab our index.html, put it there, save it. Yeah. It's a little white lie though, because there is one class, it's called a container. So if we put the container class on our app here, it'll get a little bit of breathing room, which is nice. Okay, back to the component. Let's say we have a list of names, and we'll do this. We'll say names, and we want to use ref. So ref is how we define state, one of the ways to define state inside of Vue, and so we'll throw a little array in there, and this is going to have all our names in there. Let's go ahead and write the logic, and then we'll get everyone's names in there. So I'm going to need a function that will remove random name, like so. And we'll grab a random index, and this will be math.random. So that's going to give us a value between 0 and 1, non-inclusive. We're going to multiply that times the length of the array. So we'll say names dot value. So this little wrapper here, if we want to actually access the thing inside of it, we use dot value. So say names dot value dot length. So math.random times the length of the array will give us a random value from 0 to the, possibly to the full length of the array. Well, length minus 1 because, I don't know, it's going to work. I do it all the time. And then we're going to floor it to drop the decimal, and that will give us like a whole integer.
Never do math in public.
Yeah. That'll give us a random index, and then let's just grab the name from there. And actually, we'll remove it from the array. So we'll say names dot free sticker for anybody who can tell me an array method that can remove an element from the array. What do you got? Splice. Are you sure it's not slice?
No, I'm sure it's slice.
Yeah. I always confuse them, but yeah, splice. So do you know the arguments that it takes? Don't look at the docs. Okay. Yeah, I think you got it. So please at this index delete one element like that. But you can do other things with it too, right? Oh, and we forgot dot value on here. That's why it's yelling at us. Yeah, so where do you want to delete? How many of them do you want to delete? And you can actually insert stuff into the array too. So you could say, well, don't delete anything, but then like put something into the array. I don't really ever use it that way, but cool. So delete one thing at that index. We should be good. I think I'm just going to add a little guard check. So if names.value.length, so if the length of the array is greater than 1, because we want to keep removing until there's just one left, then do the business for like remove it from the list. Cool. Yeah, but if the length of the array isn't, then we will announce the winner. Cool. So we're going to have another function called announce winner. And there should be only one person left in the array. So we should be able to just say the winner is names at 0. And then we want to say it out loud, and that's possible in the browser. So let's figure that out. JavaScript, do you know?
Yeah, it's alert.
Well, no, not alert, but like I wanted to speak it. I wanted to like say speech synthesis. Okay, let's see if we can derive it without looking it up. Okay, new speech synthesis. All right. So we'll call this the synthesizer. And then I think you're right. Do we create an instance of an utterance? Is there like a Okay, let's see. So synthesizer dot speak. Whoa. Okay. And then you pass in an utterance. Yeah, but I think we do need to create an instance of an utterance. So the utterance is a new speech synthesis utterance. Ooh. And then you pass in what we want to say. Okay. So we are going to say the winner is, and then pass in the winner name. Cool. And then we take this utterance and throw it into speak. If it works first try, that's going to be awesome. Yeah. You're completely right. Yeah. So we either want to return or we want an else. Yeah. I'm gonna throw it into an else. Yeah. You're totally right. It would have said the first person in the array every time. Cool. I guess we can test it. Let's just put a button on the screen. Button. Great. And this will say remove random person. So we're just going to test it out with like person 1 and person 2. And we want to show all of the people above the button. So we are going to use a v-for. So let's do this. We'll have a nice little div. Actually, with Pico CSS, if you use an article, it'll make it look like a card. You don't have to put any classes on it. So this will be like a card. And then we want to create one of these cards for every person in the list. So we'll use a v-for, I think, right? I haven't used view in so long. Is this how we make a list? Okay, so quick stretch. Not that long. So for every person in persons, did I call it persons? What did I call it? I called it names. That's fine. For every name in names, we want to show that name right here. All right, let's see what we got. Yeah, okay. Person 1, person 2, remove random person. Well, we have to hook the button up. I didn't actually. So when this button is pressed, call remove random name. And that's super easy in Vue. We just do an @click, remove random name, like that. All right. Okay. Actually, I really want it to. We want to hear it on the speakers, if it happens. All right, who thinks it's going to work? 75%, okay. Illegal constructor. It probably has to do with this. Like, actually, maybe you don't say new, you just say speech synthesis utterance. I don't know, we're going to have to look it up. Unless anybody has any ideas. That's okay. Any other thoughts before we look at the docs? The error message says illegal constructor on line 19. So that's what we're trying to avoid looking at the docs. All right, we'll look at the docs. Speech synthesis. All right. Oh, you just create the utterance. Oh, no. No, but where's the speech synthesis coming from? Oh, it's just window.speech. Yeah, you don't even declare, you just do it. Yeah, so we don't need that, we just literally do that. Okay, this is it. was supposed to be saying something. Yeah, I saw, let's see. Am I out? Oh, I'm muted over there, that's why.
The winner is person 2.
Let's hear it one more time.
The winner is person 2.
Nice, okay. Sweet. All right, let's get some names in here. So, who would like to be entered to win this ticket to ViewConf? What's your name? Brandon. Brendan? Brendan, like that? Yeah. Cool. And then Chris. And Leta. What's your name? Blade? Nice. Dina? Did I spell it right? D. Ah. Wait. D. Sorry. Okay, cool. Great. Who else? Wes? Yes. Great. Hans. Cool. Steve? All right, anyone else? All right. I will say, if you don't win, I think we have like a $100 off coupon that I'll give out as well, that anyone's welcome to use. All right. This is actually kind of the worst way to do this because you gradually see that you're not going to be the winner. But it's okay. Okay. Actually, let's make it more interesting. When you remove someone, we'll say that you're not the winner. I guess. I don't know. No. Yeah, no. Okay. Okay. So. Remove a random person. Actually, we'll zoom out just so we can see who. We lost somebody. We lost another person. Oh, Leta. All right. No. Oh.
The winner is Steve.
Nice. Sweet. I'll give you the email of the person you need to message, and he'll send you the ticket. Cool. Yeah. That was fun. Thanks for participating, everyone. Yeah, good job. We have the space till about 8, so feel free to keep eating pizza and take pizza home and talk amongst yourselves and show up next month and oh, I guess that's true. Well, I have some exclusive shiny stickers. Wait, what were the stickers about? You offered him a sticker. Oh, I got you. Yeah. Okay. Nice.